how's it going? I'm Brandon Lee, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my short film Hong Kong Strong. Hong Kong Strong was a collaboration between myself, my producer Ansley Sawyer.
Hey guys, this is Ansley, and I'm the producer for Hong Kong Strong.
And a bunch of really cool people that we met along the way. So first of all, who am I? I'm a filmmaker. I am a nomad. I don't have a fixed address. I travel all over the world and I make short films about places I've been. I've been to Turkey, I've been to Bali, I've been to Tokyo, Barcelona, Greece, Bahrain, Australia, India, all over the place. And I caught this travel bug partially because I realized that traveling is a great way to stay inspired to make films. If I want something interesting to shoot, I just need to walk outside my front door and explore the place I'm in. So I posted my films mostly on Vimeo. Some of them have gotten staff picks, and that's been really great for me because it's helped me get other filmmaking work, shooting commercials or other gigs that let me travel and shoot for tourism boards. So it's a great way to sort of build a portfolio for myself and grow as a filmmaker. So a lot of people ask me what kind of gear I use. I'm going to get that out of the way real quick here. I used a Sony a7R II primarily. And then there's some Sony a7S II because a friend of mine had one. There's a Sony a7S in there somewhere, Sony a6000 a little bit, Sony RX10 II primarily for slow motion of the fireworks. I stabilized my Sony a7R II on a Beholder DS1 gimbal, which is a single-handed pistol grip, 3-axis gimbal. You put your camera on it, you balance it, you tweak some settings, and you run around and you can film sort of like a Steadicam. We also had some drone shots that I did not shoot. They were shot by friends of mine on the DJI Phantom and the DJI Inspire 1 with the X5 camera on it. We shot it over the course of a month or so, and each day I shot between 2 and 5 hours of footage, I'd say. The total raw footage count was about 1.7 terabytes. And then I edited the whole thing in Final Cut Pro. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the film and talk about some things that I found interesting here. Well, first of all, why did I make a short film about Hong Kong? Well, I'm half Cantonese, so half my family is from Hong Kong. And I was going back there to visit them, to hang out for a while, to get to know the place. And I just thought it was like really fascinating to see the different layers of the city, how it's just so stacked together, how people are so compressed, and how they find a way to sort of exploit every little nook and cranny of space to their advantage. And I felt like it was a little wild. It had a lot of energy to it. So I wanted to make a film that was sort of like a roller coaster ride through the city. The film has 3 acts. So in the beginning of the film, I pretty much just wanted to establish this is going to be a ride. You know, that's why I have the title zooming at you in 3D. That's why I have the hyperlapse through the streets, just to set up the energy of the film. Because right after that, it slows down a bit, and we have sort of interesting dolly zoom effect. And in case you're wondering how it's done, it's zooming the camera in one direction while moving your feet or your dolly in the other direction. So either you're zooming in and walking backwards, or you're walking forwards and zooming out. I did it digitally. I used a 4K image, and I would either zoom in as the camera was moving out, or I would zoom out as the camera was moving in. I wanted to create a really quick visual way of showing how compressed it is in Hong Kong. And I used that as a setup to go into the next little sequence on Lantau Island, which is a Buddhist island outside Hong Kong. You take a tram to get there over the water. It's incredibly beautiful, and they have one of Hong Kong's most famous landmarks, the Big Buddha there. It's just a serene, very tranquil, very green, lush place. The architecture is kind of a character in this film, because it's so unique to Hong Kong and because it changes so much as you go from one part of town to another. In the working class areas, it will have these gray or tan, very matte finishes to it. And then if you go down to central, to the glitzy center of town, there will be neon lining the buildings, or there'll be shining glass or huge grand towers. I felt like that was a great way to personify Hong Kong and give people an idea of the different stratas that exist. And I didn't want to stay outside of the buildings because I feel like so many travel films are content to just be on the street. I wanted to get underneath the skin of Hong Kong and have some shots that went into the buildings, into people's homes, into their bedrooms. You know, have the feeling that you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper into the city. Which was pretty tricky because a lot of people in Hong Kong weren't crazy about having me film them. They're a little wary of outsiders, they're wary of cameras, they didn't trust my motivations. So the way around that was to exploit every contact that I had, every contact that my producer Ansley had, and every contact that my friends in Hong Kong and family in Hong Kong had, to just try to find people that were willing to be on film. And thankfully we got a good number of people, and we got some stuff that I would have never thought to film if it hadn't come to me through this way. So there's a lot of what I call invisible wipes here, which is where I use a foreground object as a transitional element to get from one shot to the next. And the reason I did that is because I wanted this feeling of fluidity throughout the film. I wanted it to feel like one constant thought, and by making the cuts sort of invisible, it helps to keep the energy going from one shot to the next. It's a pretty simple thing to achieve. If you know how to do a shape mask or any sort of a draw-on mask in your editing program, you just kind of outline the object that's in the foreground, and you go frame by frame by frame, and you move your outline of your mask until the object is off screen, and anything outside of that mask shows through, so the layer below you shows through as the foreground object moves past. I would do a tutorial about that, but I'm too lazy right now. Now, one tip for that, if you're trying to do that effect, goes back to when you shoot. When you shoot, make sure that your foreground object starts off frame and then moves all the way through the frame and goes all the way off the other side. Otherwise, your transition will stop halfway through because the foreground object never leaves the frame. So the second act has three components. It's got lion dancing in it, and lion dancing is an ancient dance that's done throughout China to bring luck to whoever the lion's around. It's got urban explorers, who are people that explore abandoned parts of cities. And then it's also got this element of children running through a maze in a labyrinth in a park. So when I shot these three elements, I didn't know that they would all get put together in this way. And it was just a long discovery process in editing of taking one shot from here, one shot from there, putting them together and seeing if it flowed, seeing if it created a sense of motion, and seeing if I could find any themes that tied them together. So the finale of the film goes in a very different direction again, and it's centered around this traditional ceremony called first incense. First incense is a really fascinating ceremony. They believe that the first person who puts their incense into the shrine at the stroke of 11, which is the beginning of the Chinese New Year, gets the best luck for the year. So it's a race. So I'm going to have my producer Ansley talk about how she helped me put this all together.
Working with Brandon, before he goes out shooting, we kind of talk about what are his dream shots, and based on what he's telling me, I try to find ways to get the locations that he wants, but also to fill it with the kind of motion that he wants. Before the shoot began, I got there, and for about 2 to 3 weeks I was just planning locations, reaching out to people at the temple, just finding a way to connect with people in the city. Our whole focus was to be able to get right up as close as we possibly could, and we had 4 cameras just ready for that moment when everybody was poised to be the first person to put their incense in. That was a really fun shoot to organize, but it was an even more exciting moment to be able to witness. The shoots are really awesome.
The guys doing Wing Chun in the finale are practicing on a rooftop at night, and one of them is wearing a blindfold, and this is actually a way that they practice, because in Wing Chun you're supposed to use the feeling of your body more than your eyes to detect your opponent. And there's some stuff on a racing sailboat here. I took an invitation to go shoot this because I thought it was going to be sort of a pretty, calm, scenic thing to include in the film. It turned out to be a stormy day and really high winds, and the boat was basically sideways for most of the shoot. And I was clinging to it for my life, trying to keep my camera from getting ruined. It was raining down on us. I'd never been on a racing sailboat before, and I was glad to get off because my stomach was just going in knots. But when I was looking at the footage in post, I was like, oh, this actually conveys the chaos of the first incense ceremony pretty well. So I started intercutting that. And then we filmed a Cantonese opera. It was a student performance, and I included that in there to show some of the beauty of the pageantry of Chinese New Year. And then I wrapped it up with just a little sense of family, a little sense of closure and warmth. One of the closing shots here is my dad and my uncle having tea, and I definitely wanted to include that because it's great to be able to see them hanging out together and memorialize it in one of my videos. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what you think in the comments. Feel free to subscribe. I plan on adding a lot more cool info about filmmaking and places I go to on this channel. So looking forward to using YouTube. Thanks very much.